If you've got a bunch of unwanted inventory that you've been sitting on for days, weeks, months, years, ship it to Fanatics Marketplace and let them do all the work. Just make sure when you ship it, you use the promotional code Cajun, all capital letters, CAJUN. Hey guys, Bryan with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with another international episode of Collector Spotlight. Way north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've got the great Clark with 5 Card Guys and Cards to the Moon joining us today from Toronto, Canada. Clark, thanks for joining me on the channel today, man.
Of course, always a pleasure, and I love watching your YouTube videos. It's a must watch every episode you drop. So I'm glad to be on it myself. This is a treat.
Well, this will be your favorite one. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. But before I get started, what's the temperature like right now in Toronto?
It's about 10 degrees Celsius, so I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit.
Oh my God, dude, don't start with this. Don't start with this foreign language. What the hell does that mean? I don't know what that means. That could be 100 degrees or zero.
You know what, Brian? I believe the rest of the world uses the Celsius as a measure of temperature, and the U.S. you got to do things differently, but that's cool.
I have got a problem because not only do I live in America, and you're trying to tell me about the rest of the world. I live in Louisiana, America. And so we do stuff different than all of the rest of America. So I am really almost always in the minority when it comes to thought processes. Clark, let me share this real quick. I want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you. That's not it. Here we go. Okay, so, and I want you to talk me through this. So the name of your Instagram account is 5 Card Guys. Is it run by more than one person, or is it just you, Clark? Talk me through that first.
Sure, that's a good segue into the origin of how I got started in the hobby, or how I got re-engaged in the hobby. Like a lot of collectors, we collected as kids, left the hobby because university, we grew up, and then we all came back into the hobby. And I came back into the hobby with 4 of my friends, hence 4 + 1, 5 Card Guys. And we thought it was funny because it sounds like 5 guys. You guys have 5 guys, and
we have 5 guys. Okay. That is something we do have in common. Yes, unfortunately, It's like 100 yards off screen over here to the right. It's way too close to me.
So you frequent it often. Okay, that's good. But that's how we came up with 5 Card Guys as kind of a little joke. But we started as a website, and we still have the website out, 5cardguys.com. I started to just write about cards and things I found. Things I liked in the hobby, and just different rookie cards, and then that kind of we got into social media. Fast forward to where we are now. I'm pretty much the only guy in 5 Card Guys. The other 4, they got other interests, like a lot of people do.
But guys. They're just guys. They're just guys. Yeah.
They're just 5 guys. Yeah. No, 4 guys now, and now I'm the only one remaining. But like a lot of people in the hobby, yourself included, we're just obsessed with the hobby, and I couldn't escape it, so I love still being in it. I love everything that's going on in it and learning more about the hobby, how it's evolving. So to answer your initial question, 5 Card Guys started off with 5 guys, but now it's just me. And that's where we are.
Okay, now we know. Okay, because I was wondering, I was like, is this like a fund, like a hedge fund, where like you guys like combine your cards and y'all are like trying to take over the world with 5 of y'all? I was like, this is not fair. I got to bid against 5 guys. I was like, I just, so okay, now we're clear.
Funny story though. Like the reason why we started off with 5 guys is because when we got back into the hobby, we realized that hobby boxes aren't as cheap as they were when we were teenagers. And we're like, maybe we can pool our money together. So we weren't a hedge fund. We're just poor kids or poor adults that actually we weren't poor. We had disposable income like a lot of us that came back into the hobby, but we don't want to spend $300-$400 on one box ourselves. So let's split the cost. We'll see what happens. And then, fast forward now, it's like, I'm paying 2 hobby boxes at a time, just ripping like crazy. But yeah,
you do like I know you're the 5 Card Guys now, but you do a podcast called Cards to the Moon, and I know for sure that because I've been on your show a couple of times. It's not just you there, because I was I had a lot of people. It was fun. It was really good.
Yeah,
it was a good show, and we had a blast. Tell me about Cards to the Moon. Tell me about the podcast. Before we get into we're going to talk about your PC and what you think and all hobby questions. I'm going to be throwing them at you and grilling you. But tell me about Cards to the Moon, because I think this is something. Look, man, I don't listen to very much stuff out there, I do listen to Cards of the Moon. I enjoy it. And,
Appreciate it.
I will be fair, when y'all get to the baseball and the Bowman's Chrome and all this crap, I fast forward it, okay? I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
but I
that's
love
fair.
listening to you guys because you do have a really thought-provoking way of approaching the hobby. You ask some really good questions, like why. You ask the why question a lot. And I think that's something that everybody can learn from. Cards of the Moon's a great podcast to check out. Tell me about that, just generally speaking.
I appreciate that, Bryan. Yeah, no, so I have two co-hosts for the podcast. His name's Hyung and the other's John. And, when I got back into the hobby with the original four guys, when they start to leave, you just meet other collectors as well within within your own city. And I actually knew Hyung and John from like church softball leagues, like 10, 15 years ago. And then we all just kind of reconnected because of sports cards. And it's
hilarious.
funny. Yeah, it's funny how we just came together. And then, like we're doing now, we just started talking about sports cards, while at work, after work, on our chat groups. And then the three of us decided, hey, why don't we just record all the things we're talking about? And just as you were saying, a lot of the questions were like, why is this happening? And what's the next product? And should we rip? And is it worth it? And all these other questions that come from just talking sports cards in general. And so we just pressed the record button. And the three of us, we just developed a good rapport. And we called it Cards to the Moon. And we're in season 4 now. We're just about to wrap up season 4. And Bryan, you've been so kind to be on our pod twice. Yeah. We don't have a lot of repeat guests, so you're an exclusive company. That's right. But that's how kind of Cards to the Moon started. And we've been just doing it every Tuesday. And then we added a Friday show every other Friday. And, the thing about the hobby is, there's always news. There's always things happening in the hobby, news. Right? Yeah. So you as a content creator would know this much better as well, that there's no shortage of things to talk about, whether it's just the hobby in general or whether specifically, like for you, mostly basketball cards. For us, we focus a lot on baseball cards, but we focus just generally on the industry as well. And that's why we have a segment every week called Hobby Headlines, because there's something in the news and we just... Yeah, every week now, right? It's almost like every other day these days, especially with Fanatics coming on board. They seem to be doing a lot of things. But yeah, we just kind of give our take on what's happening in the industry, our just opinion, and we just do it in a conversational way. So that's kind of our podcast in a nutshell.
Y'all all have relatively calm demeanors. Like you're the exact opposite of me. You're thoughtful, you're reserved, your voice is melodic, and I'm just some, Cajun dude down in Louisiana screaming at the screen. It was an awesome blend when I came on your show. It was like it mixed. You would think oil and water, but no, it was like perfect.
Perfect compliment, and we're just Canadian. That's how we talk to each other.
That's right. Just throw an A after everything every once in a while, and then you're good.
So true.
All right. So tell me, just so people have some perspective when we start talking about your collection and what you like and what you don't like, tell me just real quick, and we're not going to go through the whole backstory, right? Because we only got a limited time, but I want to know, when did you come back in? When did the 5-card guys come back in and decide, hey, we're going to mess around with this and check this out?
Great question. I think it's been about 7 or 8 years. So it's been about 2 years, 3 years before the pandemic hit, and we're just kind of, it was almost like I almost happenstance ran across a blog by some other guy about sports cards. And then it got me thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about sports cards in years and years. And then, it's one of those things where you just go down the rabbit hole. You're reading this article, then they have a link to another article, then you see that there's a Reddit subforum, and you're like, okay, now I'm on the blowout cards forum page, and then you're just kind of like just learning more about the hobby as it is now, and so that's about 7 or 8 years ago. And then once the pandemic hit, everything kind of like just blew up, right?
Yeah, it's difficult to explain for somebody who wasn't in the hobby pre and post pandemic. Like if you're only post pandemic, it's just too difficult to explain because
that's right.
It's almost like another world. I laugh about it. Just thinking about it. There's some very fond memories and some very despicable, sad memories, about people's behavior and just general stuff in the hobby.
Of course.
Did you bring anything back when you came back? Did you have any inventory? Did you have cards? Did you have stuff? Did you go back? Like, did you have crap in your parents' closet and stuff? I mean, talk to me about your foundation, right? What was your foundation when you came back in around 2017, 2018?
Yeah, no, I mean, like a lot of people that we've interviewed on our podcast, parents' closet, parents' basement, junk wax era, they're all worthless. But then, I grew up in the era of Todd Van Poppel when I thought the Oakland A's pitcher was going to make us rich.
Yes.
Scott Erickson from the Twins. Yeah. So Frank Thomas even, and these are good players, but we were collecting in the junk wax era. So, it was just a rough time in terms of hoping to make money off of cards, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my collection. And I had like a, couple boxes worth. My parents were glad to give it back to me. Now that I have my own house, my own family, they're like, can you get this junk out of our garage and just keep it at your place? So I have it in my basement now, and I look at it upon it fondly. But that's kind of what I got into. And then you start doing research, and I'm like, wow, these, so there's like higher end cards that I'm really naturally gravitating towards. And like I said earlier, we have more disposable income because we have 9-to-5 jobs, and you're just spending that money, that disposable part of the income on these higher end cards. So that's what when I got back into it, I kind of switched over to mid and high end cards, and it wasn't that I was
make this mistake again, right? We're not gonna buy this pop 12,000 Todd Van Poppel,
exactly,
or Taylor or Greg Jeffries or whatever the hell, pick whatever flop prospect you can think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I learned from my mistakes for sure. So yeah, that's kind of where I started when I got back into the hobby.
Yeah. And I have a similar story. I took a big break and then came back, but then I took another break after that. But I came back in probably just before you. I would say I came back in, man, I'm guessing, Clark, maybe 2016.
Yep.
If I had to guess, because I remember at the time, I thought at the time, I was like, 2016 stuff's too expensive.
Yeah.
I love this 2014 rookie class. I think it was like Wiggins and Embiid and maybe I'm trying to remember who else was in there, but I was like, this rookie class is going to be awesome. Wiggins is going to be great. And boy, did I miss on that. And I was buying the cheap crap too. Like when I got back in, I was like wax.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at what was left out. I was like, what did I just buy? What am I doing here? And eventually I meandered and wandered and matriculated my way back to Michael Jordan stuff in the 90s. So I'm okay now. I found the light, right? I just followed the light.
Amazing.
Collector or investor, how would you break your collection down? How would you break your perspective down and your purpose in the hobby? If you got 100%, how would you split that 100% up between collector and investor?
Yeah, no, that's I would almost, if I look at my bank account and see what how I've been spending my money, especially with sports cards, I would say about 85% is investing. Just looking to flip short, mid, long term. To tell you the truth.
What's short? What's short term?
So like prospecting in the season and then flipping to see if
8 months, 6 months,
within a year. Yeah. Within a year, for sure. Yeah. And then you build up. Hopefully, you make some good flips, and then I like to reinvest some of that into more GOAT type players or players that have the potential to be like really elite, right? Yeah. So the Luka Doncic, young guys that I just feel like just can't miss at this point. Giannis, those kind of players.
Clark, it's funny because like what you're talking about right now is like I made the mistake when I came back in, my radar, and I'm basketball only, and I know you're talking about baseball and all the other sports, but like I'm basketball only, but I made the mistake of thinking, well, you used to be able to do this. You used to be able to buy penny stocks. For instance, Anthony Simons is a great example.
Yep.
I was buying Anthony Simons silvers for $1, right?
Right.
And people are going to say like, well, there's millions of those. It's high pop. I'm like, that's right. But I'm in for $1. I graded for, at the time, 12. I'm in for 13. Those things got, to $300. Like that's a lot of money. Like it's a huge profit margin, especially when you buy hundreds and in my case, thousands of Anthony Simons.
Right.
But now I don't feel like you can do the penny stocks anymore because there's there's no penny players. And the way the Panini and Fanatics calendar release is, people have seen all these players by the time Prism comes out. People already know who is who, and I don't have that competitive advantage. I used to have a market advantage because I did so much research that I would be buying players who have not yet set foot on an NBA court, because they're sitting on the bench watching. Now it's like everybody knows who these players are, and they're all overpriced anyway. Like everybody's taking their shots,
That's right. No, I totally agree. And the flip side of that too is there's such a short time window to flip. If you buy and grade and you don't get the graded cards in time, that window where they just perform really well that could last only a couple weeks, and then the prices go back down, and then you kind of lose on that. So it's a timing thing, and to your point, just we talked about this on our pod too. The collectors now that are still in it, they're just more savvy. They know a lot more,
100%.
right?
No question.
Yeah.
Yes.
You lose that competitive edge for sure.
Clark, how many, if you had to guess, like when you got back in 2017, by a multiplication factor, how many more people in the hobby today than in 2017?
Ooh,
I haven't really thought about that. That's on the fly. I mean, I'll throw a number out there. I think it's 15 times as many.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a humongous number. I think it is a massive number. And I don't mean guys like you and me who live and breathe this and talk about it every day and our mind never stops. But I mean like people who casually are buying wax on a consistent basis, who are buying cards, singles on eBay on a consistent basis, you know, and they may not have the biggest budget in the world. But I just think people that are in the hobby, I think it's a significantly bigger number. And that's with a lot of attrition.
Yes.
We know post-pandemic there was massive attrition.
Yeah.
But I think it ran up so high before that I think we're still at a huge number, 10x, 15x. I don't know, maybe not.
I think so. I'm probably like, this is an arbitrary number, but I think it's 5 to 10x for sure. Just based on
just a feeling.
And two main feelings based on two recent experiences. One is the Sport Card Expo here in Toronto, the largest card show in Canada. We just had it a couple weeks ago. And the vibe was like, it was happening. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people still here attending these card shows. Yeah. And then, I knew what it was like even 3-4 years ago. And that was during the hype of the pandemic. But and like you said, there was some attrition from that peak in 2021, but it was still pretty packed. So I feel like those numbers have bumped up, especially in 2024. And, looking at we have a WhatsApp sport card chat group here in Toronto, and it started off with maybe 5 or 6 of us. Now there's about 15, that's another piece of evidence for me that people are still staying with the hobby, and we all have different collecting interests, but we're still in the hobby together. So that's kind of cool.
I should have warned you this. You're following the great Jeremy Lee. So Jeremy Lee is going to be the Collector Spotlight episode before you. So I went Australia, Indianapolis, Canada. That's my
back
order.
to back.
I'm literally talking to people all over the world. This is fascinating to me.
Amazing.
I heard that the Sports Card Expo up there was phenomenal. Jeremy said it was great. He said that might be the best place in the world to buy hockey cards.
Oh, 100%. It's still, I'm mostly, even though we're from Canada, like the guys on the pod and myself, we're mostly baseball card collectors. Maybe it's because we, the 92 Jays, 93 Jays, back-to-back world championships that really were formative years. Yeah, Joe Carter. And
Kelly Gruber. Was Dave Steve? No, Dave Steve was older than that. Dave Steve was
Dave Steve was on the team. Yeah.
Was he on that team?
Oh, was he? I think he was on one of the championship teams. I'm pretty sure. Good. Yeah.
Okay, I don't feel
speaking of Joe Carter, at the Sport Card Expo, I went to his autograph session, so I got a nice.
What a legend!
I'll show you my card later. But it's Sport Card Expo for sure. It's still mostly hockey, obviously, because we're up in Canada. But at the same time, I was saying this to a friend that. It's diversifying even more now. Like you're seeing more baseball cards, a little more football cards, and basketball cards too. So it's nice to see it kind of get a better mix in there. But hockey is still definitely king here.
Hockey's king in Canada. What is next? Is it baseball or basketball next, or football? I mean, I would assume it's not football. I would assume it's probably basketball next. No.
I think it's baseball, and I think it's primarily baseball because of the history. It's such a long history. We all grew up. A lot of us my age grew up collecting baseball cards, even as Canadians, right? Yeah. Both baseball and hockey. So I think it's baseball, and then probably basketball because basketball is so dominant in the culture these days, especially now.
It's sad that y'all don't have an NBA team in Canada anymore. I really hate that.
Is this a shot at the Raptors?
I hate that you have to go down the street and see a G League affiliate playing, and hey, let's be really clear. This is not an accident. These cats are they're aiming for Cooper Flag, dude. These cats are aiming right. They're doing something. They won last night though. They weren't supposed to win that game.
I know. It's hard to watch these days, but we did win a championship, so
Let me give you an option. We're jumping forward. I got all kinds of crazy
I love it.
hypotheticals for you as a Raptors fan.
Yeah.
Would you rather the number one? No, right now. Hey, man, look, I'm sorry. The Raptors just went 12-70 this year.
Yeah.
But they get the number one pick. Or would you rather them? I'm not going to say they win a championship because that's a little too far fetched. But let's say they go to the conference finals, they start to gel, and Scotty Barnes takes that next step, and he's an All NBA guy. Which of those two would you rather?
This is going to give my opinion on Scotty Barnes, but I'd rather tank and get the number one pick.
Yeah.
I don't think
you think Scotty's a beta, not an alpha.
Yeah, or number two. Yeah, definitely. I don't think we're treating him as the number one star. Obviously, we gave him a lot of money, right? But
in the NBA, it's great. It's great. It's almost like you're held hostage by your best player, even when you can look at your best player and objectively say, like Michael Porter's a great example. Michael
Right.
Porter's not a max player, but we're stuck. We have to pay him.
Yes.
Or we lose, the big fella, and we may lose Jamal Murray, and we can't do the things we got to do. Teams are they're recklessly throwing money in max contracts to people who, in my opinion, do not believe it. Now, I'm probably a little bit higher on Scotty Barnes than you.
Oh, you are.
It all comes down to, can he shoot a basketball? I mean, he has got to learn how to proficiently shoot a basketball. And if he can, then he can be a Giannis-type player, not to Giannis's level, but he can be a much better shooter than Giannis. So he's got that Giannis. He's got some Giannis-type qualities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big, crazy, strong body, long arms, positional mismatch problem all over the place. Good passer, sharp IQ. Just he's got to shoot the hell out of it, and he's not there yet. Although last year seemed like a huge step forward. No.
No, I think it was, and that's why he got such a big contract. But and he was playing perfect timing for Scotty. That's but thing about playing for the Raptors too is you need players that actually love Toronto, love the city, and love playing for the basketball team, because it is hard. Like even for talking baseball for a quick sec, we're all trying to get Juan Soto, right? The next big free agent signing. But the problem is not a lot of people like to play in Toronto. Maybe it's because it's a cold part of the year. That's the thing about Scotty Barnes. He genuinely seems to enjoy being in Toronto, repping the Raptors. So that's one thing that goes for him. We just saw Vince Carter's retirement. He was great when he loved playing for Toronto. When he got sick of Toronto, he just didn't even try.
Worked his way out, right? Not so subtly.
Tell me about your PC. Let's talk about your cards. How would you describe your PC? I mean, I know you've mentioned. Do you mess with hockey at all? Do you collect hockey?
Not really. To tell you the truth, not really. Okay. Yeah, surprisingly.
So you're in a hotbed of hockey card collectors, and you're gonna hold the torch up and say, I collect baseball cards. Okay, so baseball number one in your PC probably.
Yes, for sure.
Followed by basketball.
Yep, that's right. Okay. Baseball, basketball, and I don't collect really a lot of football. I did, during the hype of the pandemic, I dabbled in football a little bit with Justin Herbert, and just got burned there too. So I'm like, maybe I should stick to what I know best. So baseball and basketball are the top two for sure.
The allure of prospecting, and I know you can really do it in baseball. It is so fun, and I wish I could still do it in basketball. I just don't think that that's really out there. I mean, you could prospect on second and third year guys, but prospecting on rookies, they're so over the wax is, for me, I'm not doing it. I just can't do it. I know you pulled the trigger on some of that. I just can't do it. And so, even target selecting prospects and trying to chase them down. Like I've got a list, because I'm an avid fantasy basketball guy. I've got a list of 10 or 12 guys that I think can be the alpha, right? They may not be the next Giannis or Luka, but I think they can be the alpha. But when I go find the kind of cards that I want to look at, we're past the base prism, we're past the silvers. You got to go crazy now. You got to go golds, you got to go blacks, you got to go nebulas, you got to go, auto refractor, PSA 10 crap. It's just price prohibitive. There's too much risk and not enough reward to me. 100%. For basketball specifically. Do you feel baseball is easier than basketball from a price point standpoint?
I think so.
To scale, easier to get in and out. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the risk for baseball mostly is on whether the prospect actually lives up to his potential, right? Yeah. There's so many more prospects in baseball that, you can buy early and get prospects at a decent price. But the risk is that he won't even make it to the big leagues even.
He may never play. I mean, he may
Right?
not even make it to the big leagues.
That's the risk in baseball. And basketball, if they're a top prospect, they can go from high school to the NBA now, right? Yeah. Or play 1 year of college. So it's a faster promotion, where baseball, you still need to do single, double, triple A. There's a system in place, and teams usually take their time with their prospects.
Yeah. And I'd love to look at first round picks in the baseball draft and see what percentage of them have, let's say, 5-year careers. You know what I'm saying? Like in basketball, if you're a lottery pick, you're guaranteed to play 4. We know you're playing 4 no matter what, right? If you're a first round pick, you're playing 4 years. You got guaranteed contracts. But baseball is, it's just different. I know those are guaranteed contracts too, but they may be playing in, Tupelo or some little podunk town in Mississippi or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or something like that. They may never even make it to the league.
That's true.
What percentage of first round picks actually have like 5-year Major League Baseball careers?
That'd be a good stat to see. And I kind of did like a similar comparison where I did an IG reel maybe a year or 2 ago. And Bowman Draft, it was just where you can get the early prospect cards.
I've heard about it, yeah.
Bowman Draft. They have the cover guys, right? So it's like these young guys never touched the big leagues yet, but they're the hyped prospects. Sure. And I did a reel where it's like it just went through each year for the last 5, 6, 7 years of the cover guys, and then see where they are now. And some of them are still not in the big leagues. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of shows you it's hard to play baseball on a professional level.
Yeah. So my story, I'll tell it very quickly. I have bought one baseball card in the last 24 years. Okay. So the baseball cards that I bought before, I was buying 90 Donruss, 90 Leaf, and I was trying to pull Frank Thomas's and all that crap.
Yeah.
And then no baseball, right? I came back in, I'm basketball only. I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump in on this. The money was flowing, man. This was post-pandemic. I had some money to sprinkle. I was like, I need a reason to watch baseball. I've got a really good friend here in town. He's a banker friend of mine. He only does his baseball. He's like, you should buy a prospect. And I was like, all right, well, I got to choose between, it was Wander Franco and Acuna. And I was like, well, at the time, it was like, whatever, man. 50-50 is what. I have no idea. Nobody really knew one or the other. And you know who I chose, of course.
No, you didn't.
So I went at it, man, and I went Bowman Chrome refractor autograph or silver or whatever autograph. I don't even know what the card was that I bought. It was a PSA 1010, and I think I paid $5,000, $4,800, something like that on the nose. So in the Jordan market, it's like $4,800, and money was. I mean, back then money was
sure.
It was like I'll have a reason to watch the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, right? And I sold the card for $55.
Oh, ouch. That
Worst
hurts.
investment ever. Was the only baseball card I ever purchased. Is that hilarious? That is God's way of saying, stay in your lane, man. Stay in your lane. You know one thing, you know it well. You don't know anything about the rest. Stay in your lane. So
that's a really good story. It's a really good lesson to learn. And oh man, Can I ask you something about that though? Like,
of course.
And this is a more broader question, but I've been thinking about this lately, especially with basketball as well, because, with Ja Morant, for example, all the talent in the world, but at what point do you start to factor in not just the talent, but their character?
Got to. But the thing is, they keep that hidden. They do such a good job of promoting these guys.
Right.
You'll see Ja Morant signing autographs for kids and giving teddy bears to little girls in the crowd and, being nice to an usher. And then he's punching a kid in the face at his court, at his house. And then he's threatening somebody with a gun. And he's in a car with a bunch of other guys with guns. And now he's recording himself with a gun after he's already been caught with a gun. It's like, dude, they put such a lavish display on. And I think those marketing teams do such a good job of shielding those guys. Until they get caught, and then everybody turns tail and runs. I don't even want to tell you how many Kevin Porter Jr. cards I have in this office right now. It's a frightening number, and he was otherworldly talented, and he's still, he's back with the Clippers, but his ceiling is not the same as it was before.
Right.
But man, I don't know.
I was just wondering. Yeah.
You gotta take it into account for sure. Talk to me about let's talk about basketball cards.
Sure.
Talk me through some of your biggest and baddest. What do you got out there? Any Jordan stuff?
No Jordans. When I started, this is why we invited you on the podcast a couple of times. We're like, we need someone to explain Jordan cards to us.
To do it, and you didn't. I must not have done a good job. You haven't bought any since I came on.
All I remember from the last time you were on, you were talking about Anthony Simons actually. So I was like, I wish we talked more about Jordan. Next time you're on, we'll talk about Jordan exclusively. Okay. But I, for me growing up, it was autograph cards, and obviously autograph cards with Jordan are just, in a
Special.
very special. You need a special budget for it, right? So
Yeah.
so that's why I'm not in that game. But that's why I like to collect more on card autograph cards. That's kind of how I filter the cards I target, right? So yeah, like the basketball cards I do have though are, like I said, I talked about this on my pod a lot, but the Luka Doncic, I love the color match.
Tenders, yeah.
So
Serial number?
Tenders,
Yes.
serial number to 99.
Yeah.
Right. And just, color match, it checks off all the boxes for me. So that's probably my most valuable card that I'm just holding on to. I think it's worth $9K US right now.
I think he's a hold. I think Luka is a hold right now. And if I was ever gonna dip my toes back in the water of buying ultra modern, I think Luka's where I'm going, man.
He's so good.
More so than Wembanyama, more so than Anthony Edwards. Luka's where I'm putting my money.
I agree. And speaking of Anthony Edwards, I don't have an Anthony Edwards, but he's always on my watch list. I think he's special talent. I think he's a likable guy. He's competitive. So, and of course, the other one I have is just more for my PC. But we're just talking about Vince Carter, his SP Authentic, number 2, 3,500. I got this early on, but that's the extent of my basketball. I'm trying to really accumulate more basketball because I've been enjoying the sport a lot more. I mean, it's hard now with the Raptors, and you kind of
it's a cycle, man. Look, I'm the biggest Bucks fan in the world. I'm seeing the beginning of the end. You're in the middle of a rebuild, and I'm seeing that they probably should have rebuilt instead of spending all this money on who they spend it on. But
you think Giannis is going to leave the Bucks?
Yeah, that's inevitable.
Writing on the wall.
Yeah. At some point, it's inevitable. There's no way around that. Not exactly a free agent destination. Milwaukee. So.
We have something in common, Toronto and Milwaukee.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me this: if you were going to buy a Jordan card, what card catches your eye? I know you like autographs, so maybe it's an autograph card. Maybe you can educate me on that. You
don't buy Michael Jordan auto cards?
I have one Michael Jordan autograph card, and it's a dual auto Jordan and LeBron. That's it. It's the only card, only autograph.
Okay.
Card. I don't know enough about it, Clark, and so I've always tried to stay in my lane.
Yeah.
It's not my wheelhouse. But one day, I'm not saying never, but I'm saying as of right now, I'm not the guy. Because there's a lot to it. It's very nuanced.
Yeah.
And you know this from collecting baseball autographs, I'm sure. And I guess when you're prospecting, some of your prospecting cards are going to be Bowman draft autograph cards, and I just don't know it well enough, man. I don't know that segment of the market. I really do stay in my lane. But I don't know. Any Jordan autograph cards that catch your eye? What do you think about exquisites?
I mean, I love exquisites, but it's one of those things like
price tag.
That's right. Yeah. It's like it's one of those cards I just expect to see in a museum, and never really own. So I don't. I love looking at it. I love, but I don't think I'll ever own one just because of the price tag. But one of those things I've been learning about basketball and even non-sports cards, I've been dabbling in Star Wars even a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
And
talk to me,
and a little bit of Pokemon because of my kid. But just the idea that non-autographed cards can really have value, and that kind of applies to what we're talking about with MJ cards. It's like, what do collectors find appealing in terms of the look of the card, and how clean it is. And I'm beginning to see more of that. Like, I could see why this holds value because, wow, this is such a nice looking card. And if there's enough collectors that want it, obviously the demand increases and there's a limited supply on these cards. So I'm beginning to slowly understand the non-autograph market, and especially with Michael Jordan cards. So I think we tagged you on one of our reels because we talked about we do a regular segment called Pick One, and then I saw the Z-Force card, non-auto. Then I saw an autograph card of MJ number to 50. John and I are like, we're not really MJ collectors, but this is a no-brainer. The autograph card number to 50, and then we look at the Z-Force price. That's skyrocketing in value, and they're both $20,000 cards, and it doesn't make sense to us, just on a superficial level. But when you dig deeper, you're like, okay, I'm beginning to see the appeal on the Z-Force card. So now that I've seen it, to answer your question, I'm like, I kind of want it. It's a nice looking, clean card, and an action shot, all those things you start to consider in looking for what kind of card you want in your collection.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm gonna expand one day, and I'm gonna get into all that. I just
Please.
got too much work to do on the non-autograph stuff. Not enough money and too much work to do, man. Too much work to do. Talk me through some of your biggest. Who's your biggest investment right now in the baseball world? Who are you sitting on right now that you really like the upside of? Where's most of your money right now in the baseball prospecting world?
So this is a special card for me because when I got back into the hobby, Mike Trout was the guy, right? And then even his prices at the time were it was substantial, like it was significant, and like one day I'll be able to at least have a lower grade Mike Trout card. Sure. And this card I have is the first Bowman Chrome. So this is a rookie card that you want for most baseball players, the first Bowman Chrome. And I have one of Mike Trout. And I actually got in a BGS 9, cracked it out, got a PSA 9, so it bumped up in value a little bit. But that's the card in terms of what the most upside, because he's been injured for the last 5-6 years, hasn't played a full season. And so I think he's still talented. He's getting up there in age, early 30s. But I think I have to hold on. Mike Trout is my guy. And, I used to have, everyone's talking about Shohei Ohtani too. And regular podcast listeners of our show will know that I had a Topps Chrome on-card autograph BGS 9.5 of Ohtani that I got for $400-$500. And now it's doing closer to 7,000-8,000. You know what I mean? So
his stuff is bananas. Yeah, that's a tale of two worlds: Trout versus Ohtani.
Right.
Their prices are going in very different directions right now.
Opposite ways. Yeah. So the Trout card is and I got I still just kind of my Bo Bichette guys that I feel like will do well.
How is he doing? How is Bo Bichette doing?
Oh boy, he had a rough 2023 season, so I'm hoping for a bounce back as well. Yeah. I mean, he's a Blue Jay, right? He's a Blue Jay, and we're talking about color match, so it's a nice blue refractor, Toronto Blue Jays card, and he was before he got injured this past year, he led the league in the number of hits, so he's very consistent even in his relatively short playing career. And of course,
that's Dante Bichette's kid, right?
That's right. That's right.
You talk about a freak of nature. That dude it was all steroid era, but he was killing it, right? Playing in that thin air in Colorado. I mean, he was hitting a bazillion home runs, man. He was hitting for average too. That guy was killing for average. I mean, he was a monster at the plate, man.
No, I mean, I know where Bo Bichette gets it from, for sure. Yeah. It's in the genes. But anyway, those are my...
There's your Ohtani graph right there, Clark. Check it out. Up 35% index on Card Ladder over the last 1 year.
Crazy.
With 90 cards in the index. And there's your Trout. It is literally the exact opposite. Up 35 and down 35. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, my goodness. That hurts to see. That hurts to see right now. But, it's like... And, you go to the Ohtani chart. You got, like we've been saying for the last 2 seasons. Oh, it's going to come down eventually. It's just staying up there.
I know. People say that about Jordan. They've been saying it for like 2 decades.
You know what? Yeah, that's so like the same lesson applies for me for Ohtani and Jordan. It's like at a certain point you got to just accept that these guys are at another level in the hobby, and I think if you want one, we just gotta pay for it at this point.
But explain this to me. How is this possible? This card right here. How is this a $900 card? It's popped 4,365. See, in basketball, that would be like a $70 card.
Right.
How is this? I know he's doing crazy stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want people to come at me on Ohtani. Look, otherworldly craziness. I get it, all that stuff, and no end in sight. The dude's not old, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of meat left on the bone, a lot of tread on the tires. But top 4,365. Like this card would not be worth that much.
Well, I got a theory.
Tell me, please.
So when you look at the high-end Ohtani cards, it's just unreachable for the majority of the hobby, right? But then there's Ohtani fever, so you want an Ohtani card, a nice one, even though it's base, and that one you just showed me before, 4,000. Like these days, is 4,000 a big number? You see like 20,000 pop counts for some of these other paper product cards, right? So it's all relative, and I think people that love Ohtani can see that card and like, I guess this is the only nice one I can afford. Right?
I want a 10. I gotta have a 10, right? I can't take a 9. God forbid.
That's right.
I can't take a 9.
That's right. So. And grading is another thing we could talk about. But I think the same applies for MJ. Like, what's this? Fleer 86 PSA 1 or 2 cards go for? I'm sure they're higher pop counts. right? Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of parallel.
That's fine. You just compared Ohtani to Jordan. That's okay. I mean, we're gonna keep recording. I'm gonna keep recording.
Hey.
Normally, I would ask people to exit now, and we would turn off the video. But that's fine. Ohtani's the new Jordan. That's
10,
fine.
20 years. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I saw a stat the other day where it was like comparing Ohtani's first X number of games, and it was literally almost identical to Babe Ruth. All the
I saw
stats
that. Yeah.
the pitching and the hitting. Did you see that stat?
Yes,
and I was like, oh my God. Like it was within a 1% margin either direction on every stat.
Really
they listed,
similar.
hitting and pitching. It was after a certain number of games. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I was like, holy crap. Because I mean, Babe Ruth was just like not even a real person. Like he's like a legend, right? He's like Will Chamberlain. It's like that guy's not even real. Babe Ruth was hitting more home runs than the other teams in the league combined. All their players. It's just crazy stuff that you hear. What about the PSA set registry? You don't mess with that. You're not a set collector. No, me neither. What about vaulting? Do you vault anything, or you keep it all up there in Toronto?
We keep it. I personally keep it up here in Toronto. Yeah. But vaulting is something I'm always exploring. You know why? Because as international collectors, i.e., outside of the U.S., it's just pricey to ship anything across border. Yeah. So I mean, the appeal of vaulting is there for us, especially here in Canada, especially for people around the world, especially for investor types, like those that want to flip, and I was explaining this to a friend. I'm like, like the appeal of vaulting, especially being a collector here in Canada, it's if you're going to flip, like, you don't need to hold the card, unless it's for your PC, then sure. But yeah, the vaulting thing, I think as it becomes more popular, I wouldn't rule out for me starting to vault some of the bigger cards that I acquire. Yeah.
Sure. From an investor perspective, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. It's like, why even bring those costs into play, especially if you're not going to hold it forever. If you're not the touchy-feely guy, right? The guy that's got to touch his cards. Investors usually aren't, right? Why not? Why not use the vault as a conduit? You avoid some sales taxes. It's ease of use, ease of liquidation. True. That's what I like the most about it is when I change my mind and I decide, it's time to go in a different direction. I got 18 cards. I just listed them, and it took me a minute and a half. That's it. I just moved them over to the next weekly auction on Fanatics. It's over. That's it. I'm done.
Convenient.
Wait for the money to hit your account and hope for the best.
Yeah.
What about Wembanyama? What do you think about Wembanyama? Your thoughts in a nutshell on Victor Wembanyama, not the investment, the player.
I think he's the real deal. I'm when he first came in the league, the main concern, I'm sure for a lot of people, were weight and injury. Yeah, like it's all related, right?
Yeah.
And seems like he's gaining muscle. Seems like he's building muscle, and he went through a full year without getting injured. He jumps. That's you always get nervous when they jump, and then the way they land, if they land on someone's foot, like freak accidents like that. Yeah. But I'm buying the hype. It's to the point where
I'm all in. Yeah, I don't.
Are you?
Hey, zero cards. I'm all
okay.
In
you're all in as a player. Got you.
Yes.
Because the last time you were on our podcast, we asked you about Wembanyama because the hype was getting unreal. And I don't know if you still stick by it. I think you'd still do, but you mentioned that him going to the Spurs was the worst thing that could happen to Wemby.
Yeah, I hated it, and you're seeing why, because they suck and they're trying to suck, and that's one thing I didn't want to see. I was thinking if he went to a team, and at the time I think the other option we were talking about maybe Houston is an option. Now listen, you put that dude on Houston right now. Do you know how that team would be an immediate top 4 team in the West? Yeah, immediate, man. They would be incredible. I just said no to San Antonio. Because it's just crappy for the collecting community. It's just the worst place to be. One of the worst places, no offense, but it is, it doesn't exactly pop, and then it was just devoid of talent, and people came at me like, oh, Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. I'm like, dude, these guys are rotation guys, man. There is no star power in that city playing with him right now, other than a fading star in Chris Paul. And he's obviously a shadow of what he used to be. I just wanted to see him around a bunch of other young guys, even in Detroit. Imagine if he was next to Cade Cunningham and they were growing together.
Yeah, that
like
was fun to watch.
Penny all over again,
Yeah.
That would be incredible. And there was a bunch of other options of places he could have gone. And I just thought San Antonio was the last place that I personally wanted him to go. No offense to San Antonio. It's great.
Yeah, sure.
And Popovich, keep him out of trouble and all that. But it doesn't sound like the kid's going to ever get into trouble. He wants to be one of the greatest ever. I think he will be, man. I really do. I think we're looking at somebody who could be one of the 10, 15 greatest players that ever played.
Yeah, no, I was convinced even more of that when I saw him in the Olympics. Like his character is there. Speaking of character and his competitive edge, it's you want to see that in a superstar player for sure.
Yeah, and he's doing it as a child. I mean, look,
he's young.
I don't know how much he weighs. Whatever they say, they're probably lying. But he could certainly put on 35 more pounds and become one of the – I know this is going to sound weird.
Dangerous.
He's still going to be rail thin.
Yeah.
He would be one of the heaviest players in the league. Like, if he puts on 35 pounds, he'd probably be 280,
Sure.
That's a big dude. I mean, that's a big – I know he's tall and it's stretched out, but, like, 280 is 280, man. If you've got a 6'5" guy trying to guard him, 280 is 280.
Unstoppable. Unstoppable. Yeah,
unstoppable, man, especially if his shot's going. I gave you 20 grand tomorrow. Where are you putting your money? Invest it for me. Who you putting it in? You going to diversify it like a soft-ass baby, or are you going to go all in? You're going to go balls to the wall, go all in on somebody.
Yeah. Man, now I feel sheepish saying I'm going to diversify, but after that,
you can't diversify. You got to pick a player. You can pick any sport you want. You got to pick a player.
Okay. 20,000 on a player. Any sport?
Any sport, man. Sure thing. You could take a sure thing, or you could say, you know what? Let's roll the dice. I'm going high risk, high reward.
You know what? I'm not saying this because
doesn't have to be a rookie, Clark. Could be.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying this because I'm speaking to you.
Yeah.
I would dabble in on MJ at that point if I had the 20 grand. Like I feel like I need to have at least one nice one in my collection.
Yeah, 20 is a good one. Yeah.
Yes,
or you can go 2 10s or 4 5s. I mean, I think all those are good plays.
I would. I think I would. And we talked about Z-Force. I don't know if I go all in on the Z-Force for 20K, but maybe get 2 or 3 nice MJ cards. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. I wish somebody would give me 20 grand. I'd go buy. I know which 3 I'd buy. I got a checklist of the ones I still need. I'd go get them. Panini and Fanatics in the current state of the licensing and the autographs here and the licensing here and all that crap. How does that affect you as a baseball card collector? I know how it affects all of us as basketball card collectors, right? You're having to pick and choose autographs or license, one or the other.
Yeah.
How is it for baseball? And I know that timeline's different. Talk me through that.
Sure. Well, I mean, with baseball, Fanatics just acquired Topps, which is the #1 brand in baseball, right? So there wasn't, it's always licensed, right, in baseball. So we don't have that kind of confusion and issues with baseball cards. So it's more about like what they're doing with, the brand. Like there's something called Topps Now, the equivalent of Panini Instant cards,
I've seen them,
right? And I think what they're doing with that is pretty interesting, and I kind of like it. It is becoming more of a lotto pick in terms of, they take great moments in sports, and a lot of us sports card collectors love sports in general as well. So they take these sports moments and they create these cards, limited run on some of these cards. And then they say, if you buy these base cards, which are, $10 each, you can get a 1-of-1 autographed inscription card by that player, randomly inserted into it. So a lot of people are just buying it, hoping to get that 1-of-1 autograph. Yes, exactly like the lotto, right? So I like, I know there's a lot of complaints about it, but I don't mind it. If I'm going to get one to commemorate a moment that I like, or if I'm willing to gamble at $10 a ticket, really, then that adds a little bit of excitement to it. So that's one thing that's kind of being debated in the baseball card community, like whether that's a good thing for the hobby or not.
Is there worth to the base? Like, that's print to demand, right? So if we order 1.5 million of them, they're going to print 1.5 million of the base, right? It's the inserts, and the serial numbered inserts, the rare stuff.
Short prints.
I mean, is there any value to the cards, the base cards?
No.
Too many.
Way too many.
It really is a lottery.
We're looking at 100,000 printed for the main, for cards that are like the Ohtani 50/50. That's hundreds of thousands printed of base cards, and there are short print cards besides the 1-of-1.
Sure.
The short prints do have value, a few $100. But when there's hundreds of thousands printed, it's still,
Well, it's not. How different is that than opening a pack of Prism? I promise you, there's 100,000 Luka Doncic based Prism cards.
Great point.
You know what I mean? It's really not that different.
Great point.
You know the cards you're getting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, gamblers are going to gamble, man, whether they're opening wax or whether they're buying it that way. And I got no problem with it because, look, I feel that itch all the time, and I'll go buy a soccer box. That's what I do. When I feel the itch, Clark, I go buy a box of soccer. It's 1/8 of the price of my basketball card product.
Got you. Yeah.
And I'm a huge soccer fan, and I collect soccer, but not to the extent of basketball.
Sure.
But,
it's fun to rip.
The price is juicy when it comes to soccer compared to basketball.
Yeah.
2026 Topps Chrome basketball licensed. That is a real thing. That is one day. That's going to be huge. We're still 2 years away. That's going to be a real thing.
Yeah.
And I am frightened to ask this question. This is going to be harder than how much has the hobby grown since the pandemic question. What do you think a box of licensed 2026 Topps Chrome hobby is going to cost?
It's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a ton. I mean, we got just the way you're talking about it. You're not the only one talking about it this way.
That's how much I love the original Topps Chrome. I might just
licensed,
money.
Right.
I might pledge some kind of asset and go figure out a way to buy a case just to relive 1996, 97, 98.
Listen, I mean, I bought a Topps Chrome basketball unlicensed. I know I saw one of your recent episodes.
You should never admit that. You should never admit
that. I know. I saw your disdain for it, but this is my point. I bought one because I bought into the hype of the Topps Chrome basketball brand, even without the license. So now you're talking about adding a license to it. I'm interested at $1,000. That's crazy, right? But
no, it's not easy. Dude, I'm telling you, the secondary market, when that hits it depends on who the rookie class is.
Sure.
And I'm trying to think. I think that's going to be. I think there's a kid, AJ DeBanza is a kid that people are talking about throughout America that might be, generational. I think it's Cooper Flag and then it's DeBanza. They might be in the same class, but I think it's Cooper Flag then DeBanza. He would be in 2026, right? Because Flag will be 2025.
Yeah. What do you think about Wemby cards that year? The Topps Chrome brand with the license.
I asked this question the other day, and I was like, what would you rather have? A 2026 gold serial number to 50 Wembanyama?
Yeah.
Or a rookie unlicensed
That's
gold?
The question, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I think he's going to have a second rookie year, Clark. I think it's going to be treated like a second rookie year. I'll tell you this. Everybody who's got one that's trying to sell it is going to call it, what are they going to call it? The true rookie.
Right.
They're going to say his true Topps Chrome gold rookie. They're just going to lie. Every eBay listing is going to get taken down because everyone's going to say rookie, right?
It's the MJ rookie controversy again. The star versus the flair, right?
Look,
no?
Star people can find you in Canada and murder you for saying that. But remember, Star was licensed. So
that's right.
Yeah, they will literally come find you in droves.
My bad.
A big horde of them and kill you in Canada. So watch what you say about Star. Trust me, I've got some experience with this.
I need a witness protection program now. But
that's right.
But now,
baseball collector.
I don't know anything about basketball cards. But that's we've kind of discussed this on our pod too.
What do you think?
I think there's only one card from the Topps Chrome rookie year that I really want. I think that's going to have value is the prom pose. We call it the prom pose, where he's kind of holding the basketball and looking back.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one that's going to, because it looks nice even without the license. Yep. Unlicensed, being an unlicensed card, and everything else I think will just drop in value. So I think that's the only card really, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I don't know how the second or third year card with the license, if that'll be treated as a rookie or not. Man.
Because he does have rookie prisms. I mean, he has Panini rookie prisms, and so I guess you've got this compare and contrast. I mean, you're comparing licensed prism colors, and there's like 80 of them, right, or
Yeah,
whatever, versus unlicensed rookie autographs, and those aren't exactly limited. There's quite a few Wembanyama rookie autograph cards. What'd you think about the Mercury product? Did you ever mess with that at all? Like look into it or kind of inspect it?
Yeah, we did a show on that, and you know, it seems like a cash grab, to tell you the truth.
Cash grab. Is it a trend or is it a one-off because it was Wembanyama? Are we going to see a Mercury Cooper Flag crap next year?
I don't think so. So. I think if anything, I think the Topps Mercury brand will extend beyond basketball. Like for special elite players, they might do one for baseball if there's a hype prospect or a star, or for any other sport really. Football, I could see Topps doing that, but not limiting it to baseball.
Well, here's my take on the Mercury. There's only, I mean, I personally, the impression that I get, and again, I'm just one man, I feel like it did not work. Like, I don't think it's nearly as well received as people suspected it would be.
Yeah.
And it's probably evidenced by prices going down for all but very few of the cards and why
100%.
prices going well down.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked, but for the license. I think it's the only reason it didn't work. I think people would have ate it up like candy if there was a license card in there. I think they would have, man.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure. I could see that.
What's your favorite thing about the hobby? 2024, November 19th. What's your favorite thing about the hobby? What's the one thing that, like, if it was going to get taken away, you're like, no, I got to have this. This has got to stay. It's my favorite thing.
This might sound a little bit cliche, but maybe it's because, you know, why I'm in the hobby still is that I'm creating content for the hobby. Just like, you know, like researching, like connecting with different collectors, and then just talking about it on the podcast or writing about it on the blog or just posting it on social media. Like this community is, you know, one of those things that if it all went away, it's kind of, I feel like there will be a void. I'm like, oh, what do I do with all my time now? Yeah. You know, like I spend so much of it now on just being in the hobby and not just collecting cards, but just interacting with different people on social media. And it's crazy, you know, with the internet, it's global, right? Like it's crazy that sometimes I kind of tell my wife, I'm like, it's crazy that I'm having this interview even with you. You're in Louisiana and I'm in Toronto, and we could chat like this about sports cards. And otherwise, without the hobby, we would have our paths would have never crossed, right? So I think that's kind of, if you take a step back and see the perspective of where we are in the hobby. Yes, 100%.
The world has shrunk so much, Clark. We take it for granted. I mean, we were having to show up at a card show to buy cards or go to a card shop in the 90s when we were trying to get, you know, Frank Thomas or Juan Gonzalez reverse negatives. Now here we are, you know, and I mean, you could live in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it wouldn't change our relationship at all. I would. 100%. I mean, I can talk to you anytime I want to. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, look at this. This is my friend. You know, I just had a guy on from Australia. We couldn't figure out what time zone. We didn't understand, like, what time is it going to be there when it's this time here, and trying to schedule it, you know. But the world has shrank, man, and it's been a great thing for the hobby. In my
yes, we needed it,
in my opinion.
And you know, like I think, and these are like real relationships, right? Like that you form over the years, because like we're just talking about the Sport Card Expo in Toronto. You know, we actually, you know, talked with Jeremy Lee because he had a booth set up there, and we went to Fanatics Fest in New York City, and a lot of you know, people that we connected just through Instagram or on other social media platforms. When we saw them, it was like, oh, just like friends meeting, you know, like, and in reality, it's the first time meeting ever in person, and it's not awkward.
I know,
you know?
Like one of my best friends, you know, a couple of my best friends, I've only seen them twice in my life in person. But if you ask me, like, who are your best friends? I'm like, well, it's these three guys, you know? It's fascinating. And cards does that, man. And it's, you know, it's an everyday, I don't know, it's only you know, electronic communication through you know, an IG message or whatever. But it is interesting. You know, the first person that I think of to share my thoughts is this guy over here, and he lives in another state. You know?
Right.
What's one thing you'd take away? What the worst thing about the hobby? One thing you wish would just go away? We already know, you're on the record. You hate Star. You hate the Star card. So that's one.
No, don't put that on the record.
I'll edit this out. No, seriously though. What's one thing? You know, this just really gets me. I just wish this would completely go away.
I mean, from a product side of things, it's really small and nitpicky, and I don't really like sticker autos. You know, like I know that's
That's fine. That's a great answer, dude. I agree.
Yeah, it's I'd rather have the Fanatics take the time to reach out to the athletes and have them sign on cards, and just I know the appeal sticker autos too, so you can throw out more product out there, right? But but on a more serious note, it's creating content on in the hobby on the internet. Like, you're gonna have like a lot of people that are just grumpy for some reason, and
yes. And you don't ever offend anybody. Imagine how grumpy that my people are, because I'm a little bit more opinionated than you. I mean, you're so mild mannered, and even
it's all relative, I guess. Yeah. But even we get just messages. It's like, did you really have to say that? Did you really have to write that out? And it doesn't really impact. For me, it's water off a duck's back, right? But I could see how that could be discouraging to other people.
Wild. It's a reminder that if you take a random sample of 1,000 people out there, you're gonna have 7 nut jobs. You're gonna have 7 people that could probably be your best friend. You're gonna have 500 that agree with you, 500 that don't. But you're gonna have nut jobs out there, and
for sure.
I've never really understood that either. I have a 2-strike deal. Like, if somebody if somebody disagrees with me, let's go, man. I'm all for it. Just give me a reason.
Fine.
But if somebody disagrees with me and calls me a name, that's strike 1.
Yeah.
And I let them know. And then the next time they make a comment and I'm talking about YouTube specifically, that's just straight up, vitriol, they're gone. Like, it's a 2-strike deal. It's not 3 strikes. Like,
that's a good rule.
It's 2 strikes. You're out.
What's
the big deal? Like, I'm doing this. I mean, what am I doing this for, right? If you don't want to listen, if you want to be a jerk about it, why are you listening in the first place? It doesn't make any sense,
Yeah, that's a good rule. I should employ that myself too. But it's
2 strikes.
It's one of those things where and maybe it's because I have a journalism background. I was a journalist for about 15 years before I started doing digital marketing, and now I'm in the hobby full time. I'm really blessed by that. But yeah, it's the negative people that speak the loudest usually. And one of those things that we like to we always like to encourage other content creators, that or prospective content creators that want to, post whatever they like about the hobby, just to do it and not to take those voices too seriously, because there's a lot more that are just more quiet.
It bothered me a lot more when I first started, Clark. It really did. It really bothered me. I
could
was
see
like,
that.
Can I believe this? I'm trying to be this nice guy. I'm like,
it's
gonna happen. It's unavoidable.
It's unavoidable, and this is why I like these kind of conversations more, because there are people I'm hoping that people think we're nice and kind within the hobby, but there are genuine interactions like this that are more frequent, and you don't see it all the time. So I hope that's a word of encouragement for new content creators.
All right, we're getting close to the end, but I've got 2 surprises for you. These are 2. Okay, the first is we're going to go through my list and your list, and we're going to see how close they are of the 5 greatest Toronto Raptors players of all time. Okay, so start getting your list ready. First, I am going to tell you who did not make my list. Okay, these guys are not in the top 5, and you tell me if I'm crazy. Siakam is not. Valanciunas is not. Damon Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse, is not. Marcus Camby is not, and Tracy McGrady is not, just because he failed before he became a stud.
Wow. Okay.
So these are guys that put up numbers and did things while they were in Toronto. Okay. So it can't, I'm trying to think of people that have, left Toronto super early and gone off to stardom. I don't think there's a long list of people that have done that, but you get my point with T-Mac, right? T-Mac will be the guy, right?
Okay.
So he's not a Raptor. People don't think of, he did all his damage in Toronto. He didn't. So give me your top 5 in any order. You can go 1 through 5 or 5 through 1. I don't care.
I don't know. I'm been put on the spot, so I don't know if it's 1 to 5. I could change. But...
Let's go 5. Let's just go 5, and then we'll talk through the order.
All right. I'm trying to think of my 5 here.
My problem is I had 6.
Yeah, 6. Okay.
I had 6. I couldn't I couldn't take one guy off because he won you a title. I had to put him on there. He won you a title.
Kawhi's on my list. Kawhi's on my list for sure.
I mean, Kawhi's on the list. He
has to be.
He's the only reason you won a title.
Yes, he has to be on the list.
He has to be on the list.
Yeah, and that I was going to ask you, well, how are we judging?
I know. Well, I don't know.
But Kawhi, like it's in terms of impact, Kawhi has to be on the list.
He has to be on the list. Yeah.
I'm random order, but Kawhi and Vince Carter, those are 2 easy ones.
Easy.
Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry's on my list.
I would add him. Yep. And I would add two that you didn't. And maybe I'm missing one.
You're missing a couple. You're missing a first ballot Hall of Famer. You're missing a Hall of Famer.
Who? Oakley?
You're missing the second greatest Raptor ever, Chris Bosh.
Bosh, yeah, CB4. CB4.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
And then of course, you got DeRozan and Lowry are just
DeRozan,
interwoven.
Yeah. That's my 5. Yeah, that's my 5.
The tricky part, the hard part was Lowry and Marc Gasol. And Lowry was there longer. Marc Gasol's really good, man. Marc Gasol was really good. And he was the defensive player of the year.
It's true.
He's pretty good.
I don't know.
Was there forever. Lowry was there forever.
Yeah, no, Lowry over Gasol for sure. But Gasol was
better than me. Yeah. But that's my list. And I had to put Kawhi in there, even though he was only there for a little bus stop. I'm gonna get my ring and then bounce.
That's right.
You don't think Scotty Barnes is in that list, apparently.
No. Barnes is kind of,
Now watch what I do. I'm stealing something that I heard on a Cards to the Moon podcast.
Okay.
Y'all called it 5 Hobby Joys.
Yes.
Okay, we're doing it. So you explain what this is, and then I'm going to give you my 5 things. Explain to the people what it is that y'all do, and this is another reason you need to listen to Cards to the Moon podcast.
Yeah, so we've done this a couple of times, and it's like, we would say, we'll give a list of usually 5 things, and it has a theme. And the Hobby Joys is, it could be anything from, I think John thought of these ones, ripping a pack, or small things like that, right? And seeing a color refractor when you start spreading the cards, and you're like, oh, we hit a color, that kind of feeling, like, that's what we mean by Hobby Joy. So yeah, top 5 things like that.
And here's the trick: is that I'm not giving you all 5 at once. We're going one.
Blind rankings. Yes.
You got to slot them, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be hard. You don't know what's coming next. So the order that I deliver these, it could be very deceitful. It could be.
So that's right. That's a blind ranking segment. Yeah, exactly.
That's a blind ranking. So we're blind ranking these. You got to slot them 1 through 5. You ready?
Yes.
You get an email from PSA that says your grades are available.
4.
I say 4, but it could be 5. It could be terrible.
I think
great anxiety. It gives me great anxiety.
4, yeah. I think 4, and then it's also like with the bigger cards. I usually go express, so I know I'm going to get it tomorrow, or you know what I mean. So,
I'm bulk. I'm poor folk down here, man. I'm always bulk, so it's like, God damn, it's been 6 weeks finally.
Yeah.
All right, that's at 4. Grades are available.
Yeah.
You're on the walk. You just got out of your car. You're walking up to a big card show. You're walking up to the Sports Card Expo up there in Canada. That feeling. You haven't been on the showroom floor yet. You're about to walk in. You hear it. You see hundreds of people walking with you.
Yeah.
Cool feeling, man.
I love it. I loved it way more when I had more cards to sell and flip. I liquidated a lot of them because, everything's come down in price and I just want to liquidate and I'm looking to buy more. So these days I put that healthy 3 for sure. Yeah. Just meeting people at the shows. That's kind of why I like going.
Staring at an unopened wax box that's yours. You're about to open it. Sitting there, it's ready to open. I know where this is going to be way up there on your list.
It's always one. I love it. The optimism, the hope that you get of getting a big hit,
Dude, you don't know what's coming down the pike here, man.
I'm
serious heat.
I'm the most optimistic person. Yeah.
You're about to hit record on a podcast for Cards to the Moon with your boys. You're about to hit the record button. You got your itineraries, out, and this is what you do now, man. This is your livelihood. This is what you do for a living. That's a good feeling,
Yeah, I have 2 and 5 left. It can't be a 5. So that's got to be a 2. And I'm taking the risk. Whatever you come up with is apparently I like it the least.
It's Scotty Barnes is a 10-time NBA MVP. This is number 5, and you're gonna hate yourself. You're really gonna regret this.
You trapped me.
This is a Hobby Joy because this person's gonna have cards. The Raptors. Somehow, I promise you, the Raptors somehow get the number 1 pick in next year's NBA draft. You blew it. This is why it's a fun game. You blew it.
You led me with the record. You just hyped up the recording part of the podcast. I'm like, I'm gonna be like a jerk if I put that number 5. I see. See, this is why it's tricky. Blind rankings. This is how you play the game.
It is very tricky. We probably should have put more time and effort into it. Now, I probably should not have been quite as deceptive in saving the best for last. That makes it kind of hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, look, Clark, thank you for joining us. Guys, just a reminder, let me scroll over here again or screen share again. Nope, that's not it. Nope, there it is. There we go. No, not Shohei. Go by Shohei. Go follow Clark. He's only one guy, but he was part of 5 Card Guys. Well, I don't know if we can amend that. You got too much goodwill and rapport and reputation built
I'm
up.
keeping it. Yeah. Yeah.
He is 5 Card Guys on Instagram with a whopping 41,800 followers. He is 5 Card Guys, and Cards to the Moon is the name of his podcast. And Clark, you're on. I'm only a YouTube guy because my brain's too small, but you're everywhere, right? You're like, I know you're Spotify and you're all over the place, all podcast platforms.
You can find us anywhere.
And then a website, which I had no idea about this until 5 minutes before we got on. Is the website still active and you're still updating and you're still doing stuff on it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. You could. A lot of it's podcast material as well, but yeah, you can go to our website, 5cardguys.com as well.
That's all. It's well done. Did you put this together? Or you got somebody to do this for you?
I did it myself. Yeah.
You got some skills. All right, I might need to hit you up for my Cajun
anytime.
Website. Yeah, your price is too high. I can't afford that.
No. For a friend.
All right. Again, Clark, thanks for joining the channel, man. This won't be the last time, I promise. You know I'm always available. I'm an annual guest on your show.
Yes, so for sure. You're going to be back on soon. Absolutely.
Don't ask me about Wander Franco. It's too sad. No more talking about that. But I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again for joining. Guys, thank you for watching another edition of Collector Spotlight. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. And peace.